I swear to God, you actually knew when I swear to God, it's like you knew exactly when I brought up the audio for the call. Oh God,
so I'm
dang.
gonna throw this one out there. We have an official song. We have an official piece.
Yeah.
And now you have an official stinger to go after the piece.
Is that what that is?
It is a throwback, and I do know that Dizza was distressed when there were no diddlies coming from me the one time. So
there was one time. It's true.
So gosh. Here you go. Here be your diddlies.
Your
diddlies.
Why? Why does this happen on the show? I don't understand why this happens on this show. Everyone, welcome to the Newbcast Podcast for the 25th of March. My name is MissMischeleJean, joined by my usual co-hosts and special guest, Muzicchik. For those that don't know how the show works, we go around, we talk about the games we've been playing, kind of why we've been playing them. We could talk about some gaming news. We have a host topic, and then we shill ourselves out to you, and then we get the heck out of here. I suppose that said, I already introduced a little bit, but I want to welcome to the show Muzicchik. Welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about you and who you are and stuff.
Hi, hello. I am Muzicchik by my name. I am a musician by trade, and podcast host, and a streamer, and I do lots of things, but mostly those things.
Gotcha. Welcome on in. Music, what are some of the stuff you've been playing? What have you been up to recently?
I go in spurts. This latest fad is City Skylines. I've been playing a lot of that and nothing else. Just finished playing a pretty cool co-op game called Heave Ho.
Okay.
And actually it was really cute, really fun. It was a short game, but it's a cooperative game, so I'm always a fan of those as well.
Okay, so I guess I'm not entirely familiar with the concept of what Heave Ho is.
So it's basically like a giant jumping puzzle, but using physics. So like, oh, hi Ripley. Basically you got to kind of like throw your partner to various places so they can get past the stage. It's like a platformer type game.
Okay.
But it's challenging because it uses motion and physics and all that stuff. So similar to trying to think of what that game. Hey, Human Fall Flat.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah.
Except it's not like 3D like Human Fall Flat. It's more 2D-ish. Yeah.
So I feel like that if you were to get someone that's PvP-ish in mindset, that game can get pretty disastrous pretty quickly.
Well, yeah, except you can't punch your partner, but you can fart on them and cause them to fall off the platform. So, yes, it's quite hilarious.
Mish has officially found a new competitive game after nobody will play golf with your friends with her.
I just the last game I can recall where farting was a primary action was Orc Attack in like 2014. So this is a niche that's been underserved for a long time.
Yeah, farting is a pretty big component. There's fart clouds that block your view, so that you can't progress until the fart cloud clears. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So it lingers, is what you're saying. Is the fart lingers and
The fart lingers. It's a giant llama that walks by and then just lets one rip, and you know.
Is there ever a scenario where it's your advantage to leave a fart cloud where it's at? Like, do you have to let it linger?
Well, no. See, the thing is it's meant to obstruct your view, so you can't progress further until you can try and get through the level and traverse through the fart cloud, but it's in your best interest to let it kind of dissipate so you can see what you're doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's a thing. I've also been playing a lot of Rainbow Six Siege as well.
Oh, okay. I feel like that's an oldie but a goodie that's always reliable to go to as far as like an FPS and such.
Yeah, I go through spurts where I don't play it forever and then I just play it nonstop and then I'm good for a while.
I understand
that.
Kind
of how I am with Elder Scrolls Online as well.
Right, we'll stick with SEO, okay? Because I feel like I can go on a full Skyrim rant, and I know I've gone on the Skyrim rant with you, so we'll just stick with ESO. It's interesting that hearing about ESO, because I feel like there's been quite a few people that have been diving back into some type of MMO recently, and hearing you or bringing up ESO is kind of an interesting. Like, what kind of spurred the re-entry into that?
It's again one of those things where I don't play it for a long time and then I get the itch to play and then I play for a couple weeks and go, yeah, okay, it's about the same, I'm good, and then I stop playing. So it's very grindy, and a lot of the quests are kind of the same formula and just different. But like I've been finding like the quest stories themselves are just kind of like I don't even pay attention to the story. I just skip through everything and it's like, what's even the point? And then it's like, I don't know. But it's the first real MMO I ever really put time into, so I feel like I have to stay committed to it.
It's interesting to hear that the first MMO that you've really. Because, yeah, I suppose that's, I know we've talked about other popular titles and you just never really played them, so I guess
I've tried to get into Guild Wars.
I saw
Guild
that.
Wars 2. Yeah. I've been wanting to get back into it, but I just...
Oh, I'll be gushing about that when I get around to my turn on this whole thing, but we'll save that for now. Okay, so ESO, and then Skylines, which it's always interesting to see how many people actually end up playing City Skylines and how popular that game is for, what is that coming up on, 7 years old, I believe?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how old it is. Let's see. Dr. Google, let's see how old it is.
Dr. Google? It got a degree finally?
Yeah, finally, yeah. In fact, it offers its own degrees now, which is impressive.
Yeah, AI defending their own dissertation is very difficult, but kudos to finally getting there.
7 years, yeah. So it came out on March 10th of 2015. So it's a 7-year-old game, but it still got a lot of popularity and quite the following to it. How many mods were you running in your most recent play of it, though?
Quite a few.
Okay,
I have at least 12 or more. Quality of life ones, really.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting to see how many people will do that and how much how willing they are to fry their RAM with all the various mods that you can get for it. And
yeah, I try not to run too many mods, but I do have quite a few assets that I take advantage of.
Gotcha. Yeah, it having spent time and watching your city's streams, even if I'm just lurking, I find that it's a good chill place to hang out. It's just any city's stream, and I think the way that you were putting yours together looked really good too. Just the composition, the way it looked, the time to detail that you're putting into it.
Yeah, well, I find that if I focus on one little area and I work on that, it kind of allows me to also multitask and interact with the community and such. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
got it. any other fun games that's got your attention right now? Or is that really it?
I mean, any of the simulation games, like anytime Power Wash Simulator gets a new map out, I'm all over it.
Guilty.
Still waiting for they released the new one beginning of March.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, the subway, and of course, I worked on that immediately. There was 4 new maps. I finished those in a day, and now I'm waiting for more.
Oh, did I miss that update? Okay, I guess I have an update to go look for.
The subway is really fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll add that to the list of things to do then. Awesome. Well, I guess with that said, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. And yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Mr. Elijah, welcome to the show.
Who's this Mr. Elijah? I will fight him, because how dare he use my first name as his last name? That's just confusing. Thank you for having me. I know you're regretting it already.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
No, glad to have you. Elijah, what have you been up to? What has been on your docket? I know your list is always a hefty one.
Well, I've been diving back into Gunfire Reborn, which is essentially basically that new Borderlands spin-off game, but what if it actually was like reasonably paced and you could get really powerful really quickly, and it was crossed with Kung Fu Panda.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very tightly together. I'm playing through more of that to research and try out every single hero, rank them up. Besides that, I've also been just, like revisiting Dead Space 2 was really nice, going through all that. I think I may have mentioned that last stream, but yeah, that was just that was a nice time to dig through that again, revisit an old favorite. Finally trying out The Sims 4, which confusingly EA basically gave me for free. My Sims 3 copy seems to have vanished from Origin, and in its place I have and also Sims Medieval, but I now have a copy of Sims 4. So something happened there. It could have been a miracle, could have been a tragedy, but you don't know which.
That's interesting that you'd say that. And the funny thing is EA's done a free Sims 4. In fact, my copy of Sims 4 was something that I received free. So, hearing you say that you got, it's interesting that it basically that it get recycled and given away again, but in lieu of losing 2 of your other games.
Yeah, not trade?
Yeah, it's a very trade. I will say that, in terms of comparison to Sims 3, Sims 4 is legitimately better. So I'm not complaining about that. I did want to try Sims Evil though, so that was a bit weird. That was a bit weird. But I don't know. I got lucky, and I one of my parents picked up a copy of it at a garage sale, and the code just happened to not be used. So it was lucky happenstance to have tracked it down that cheap anyway. So who knows? But yeah, Sims 4 has been really nice. I like that it distinctly puts a greater emphasis on letting people with opposing mindsets actually get along, because it's always driven me a bit nuts about how they designed Sims 3, especially, where it was just, how dare your characters get along and have differing viewpoints or personality types. It's not like opposites attract is a common trope in romance and in life. So actually having that work properly is really great. And so yeah, I've been very eager to poke more around into that. It feels a lot more viable to just play it straight, whereas Sims 3 in particular was more expectant of you to just try and break shit, because that's what a lot of the Sims fan base does, is just ooh, here's a new thing, let's break it. And Sims 4 is okay, but for the people who are actually here to simulate little characters having lives, this game's for you. So it's very adorable and pleasant, and it just, it's kind of like what Music was describing with Skylines. It's like a nice little happy place to go back to. besides that, the other main thing that I have been playing, well, I found a new weird thing to like.
No.
No, I mean, even by comparison to, I did not expect it to be good. Like, that is how weird and infamous this game is. I got it expecting it to be a lark.
Oh, come on.
Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z is actually really, really fun. Like, this game got trashed at reviews by everyone. It basically was held up as this unredeemable trash pile, an awkward last gasp of Spark Unlimited after Lost Planet 4 fell through. No, it's actually really, really good. I don't understand at all why it gets the hate that it does. For those who remember From Software from before they made Dark Souls, it's basically a modern Ninja Blade, but with cel-shaded graphics and over-the-top zany humor and just like all killer, no filler constantly. And every time you think you've seen everything it's going to do, it does something else crazy, like a zombie wedding, or recreating the opening of Resident Evil 2 to get through a puzzle, or just like all kinds of bonkers stuff. You can rip a brute zombie's arms off and use them as nunchucks. There are killer clowns with double-bladed, serrated, blades that if you steal their blades, you make rainbows as you're tearing through the zombie hordes. You defeat helicopters by tossing their rockets back at them and throwing corpses into their helicopter blades.
When this game was a concept, was someone on LSD when they did it? Or
funny that you'd say it's a concept, because ironically, in my experience at least, it's the most successful game to have been involved with concept. Because fun fact, this game partially was actually, tied into Mighty Number 9. There, if you
really?
Yeah, Inafune was involved in this. This was one of his last things that he was ever involved in. He was only a producer, as I understand, but still, he somehow convinced them to put Mighty Number 9 in as like a skin. Mighty Number 9 hadn't even released at that point, and they somehow convinced them, oh, this character is going to be just so popular, you need to have this in as a pre-order bonus skin. That ironically you can only access now by modifying a settings file in the PC port. Like so many of the odds were stacked against this game. It was a weird spin-off of Ninja Gaiden. It had Inafune involved with it. It was the last legs for Spark Unlimited. It should not be as fun as it is. It should not be so just genuinely joyous and cathartic. But earlier this week from the backlog, we were digging through it, and just it kicks ass. It's really genuinely pleasant and fun and cathartic, and I intend to play the rest of it, because any game that can make me feel that much adrenaline in an hour is pretty damn impressive. I will say that I was warned by one other person who played it that you need to play it on the easy difficulty, and I can see why, because easy in Yaiba is normal in every other game. Everything else is hard or harder because Ninja Gaiden. So that is the one trick, and I'm wondering if that might have contributed to part of why critics weren't as keen on it, was because they probably were playing it on normal, because why wouldn't I play it on normal?
And because that's the certain, and the connection wasn't made that you need to play it on easy because of the offset of the difficulty.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, and if I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play a game where I can do some absolutely ridiculous things at this time, what I'm probably doing is checking out Goat Simulator, which came out at just about the same time.
Yeah, that didn't help anything either.
We're just working on bringing out all the obscure titles tonight, aren't we? Is that?
I was just appreciating like how ridiculous it sounded, and I'm like, what are some of the most ridiculous games out there? Goat Simulator. When did that come out? Oh wait, it was like 2 weeks afterwards.
Yeah, the odds were just not in Yaiba's favor. And nowadays, they don't even put it on sale. I had to use eBay to actually get a reasonably priced copy for PC. Normally it's $30 on Steam. So nobody else is trying it. No one else is uncovering it, because most people aren't going to spend $30 on a thing that infamously got trashed at launch.
Yeah. Okay. So give me the title one more time here, just so I can.
Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z.
Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z. Let's see if
I can
just...
link you the Steam page if you want.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for here.
Okay, hold on. I can get it for you. Hold on.
Oh, I think I found it. Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z. There we go. We'll drop that in the.
For
in the
all
chat.
of the academics, please enjoy the Wikipedia article.
That's interesting. I mean, oh yeah, Koei's involved too. Yeah, that says a lot. Oh, God.
Yeah, it's amazing that the port runs smoothly considering it's a Tecmo Koei,
Yeah.
PC port. Because as we all know, it's like Dynasty Warriors. How does computer work? How does computer work?
I don't think I've really had any good luck running any Dynasty Warrior on PC, and yeah,
exactly. It's like this game is impossible. I don't know how it exists, but everything about it, except for one puzzle that involved going to an odd place and throwing a zombie at a thing, everything else worked. It was perfectly solid, absolutely batshit, and just. Yeah, if you're the kind of person who likes things like No More Heroes and stuff like that, then absolutely. I highly endorse checking it out. Get like a used copy on your PS3 or Xbox 360, or track down a cheaper copy on eBay. Because, you shouldn't be paying $30 for this thing at this point, and they have absolutely no interest in discounting it, clearly. But, turns out there is literally one game with Concept's name on it that is actually fun. Because someone else did most of the work. Rest in peace, Spark Unlimited. You weren't appreciated in your time.
That's
There's
something.
another company though that's doing that too, and that's Wizards of the Coast. And if you're familiar with the Baldur's Gate series,
Valerian,
they Dark Alliance they released for PC. It was only ever available on the Xbox. And they released a copy for the PC, but they're charging $37 for it, even though the game is like 15 years old. And they're still charging $80 for Baldur's Gate 3, which came out 2 years ago now.
3 isn't even finished yet, though. That's
it's early access still, yeah. Kind of ridiculous. Even though I got suckered in because I'm a huge Baldur's Gate fan, but...
Same.
I mean, I spent probably way too many hours playing through Dark Alliance 1 and 2 when it came out on Xbox. So they're great games, though.
I didn't have a console until the Wii, so I completely missed Dark Alliance the first time around.
I never did Baldur's. Like, I know there's a lot of people that enjoy Baldur's Gate, and there was other like D&D based games that I played. Like Might and Magic. I know I've played a different variants of. Baldur's Gate wasn't one, but I know plenty of people got into it and really enjoyed it. And it's.
I mean, it charted the way for Knights of the Old Republic and then Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're curious about it, I would absolutely play some Baldur's Gate 3 with you.
Okay.
Wait, it has co-op?
Yes.
How does that work?
You get to choose a character, and like a proper D&D session, you wait your turn until you get to do something when you're in combat.
If two players try to romance the same character in Baldur's Gate 3?
One, why not? Because that seems like a very D&D thing to do.
Yeah.
But I think the way that the campaign is designed, it doesn't really give you that opportunity.
Well, now
the original Baldur's Gate wasn't turn-based co-op. It was you both hack and slash the same things at the same time. So I don't know how the co-op plays or feels in number 3 at all. But that'd be interesting to see what it's like.
Sure. I don't know. Maybe it's something I have to just venture into just to try myself. I know there's going to be some people who's like, blasphemy, you haven't played Baldur's Gate. Like, look, there's so many different games I play and I play religiously. Like, I need
Yeah.
to try other ones, but
I don't know. Everyone has their nostalgia game, and that one's mine, hands down.
Mhm.
Mm. The first time you saw The Beholder.
Mm-hmm.
It's love at first sight.
Yep.
oh
Unlocking
gosh.
Drist the first time.
But to round things out, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm forgetting. Oh yeah, I also got to briefly try The Chameleon, which is kind of a Metal Gear Solid inspired, but also X-Files y stealth game where you play a professor trying to escape a lab on the moon, and you can transform to look like the guards, which are robots that have gone haywire and maybe have killed everyone, maybe not. You're not entirely clear on that yet. It's interesting. It has some very clever level design, but you can also definitely tell it was made by just one person because there are some issues that you feel like if a second person had been in the room, they would have been like, maybe we should, tweak this a bit. I like it. I do genuinely like it. I can see why he's moving on to making a full hardcore Metal Gear Solid 1 style homage piece now after this, but it does feel a bit like there are some points where it's struggling to communicate quite as clearly what you're supposed to do or where you're supposed to go. Some of the lighting choices in a few of the areas, it's like if there was just like one more little indication that, oh, that's the whole way I go down to get the thing, to open the thing so I can proceed with this other thing that I've just been carrying around, that would be massively helpful. The power progression is great though, because at first you can only briefly transform, and for that same little brief transformation, you can just knock an enemy out temporarily and just wait for your battery to recharge. But the thing is, it always costs your full battery to knock someone out, but you aggressively get more and more abilities to dash and to transform, and that uses way less power. So over time, it naturally discourages you from taking a more violent traditional stealth approach, and instead encourages ghosting far more often, which I'm all
It's
here
true
for.
Metal
That's a
Gear
really,
Solid, yeah.
yeah, it's a really nice idea there, but it's not quite 100%. I liked what we played for that for backlog, but it was a bit iffy. And the final thing that I can speak to playing is I went back to Paladins, which, like Muzicchik was saying with Rainbow Six, Paladins is the thing that, I just keep bouncing back to. The newest character is interesting, though, because they actually made a plus-size champion. She's clearly inspired by Megan Thee Stallion and is just, this absolute... She's like Junkrat on acid. Like, one of her abilities is essentially a party cake that she tosses out that explodes and fires rockets on everyone in an entire area.
Oh,
just
nice. Okay.
wiping out everybody. She can do essentially a rocket jump with a single button press 3 times in a row before having to recharge it. And every other explosive is just fantastic. And her ultimate literally has her, like, riding a rocket like a classic pinup, and you can top off it with a second press and just send it flying into the enemies. And it doesn't like wipe a team. It only does 17,000 damage, and most champions have at least 2,000 health. But if a team is already under fire, you drop that on them, you have ruined their day. So she's been a lot of fun to be trying out, which is always tricky because there's usually somebody already jumping on the newest character as soon as they can. But finally, Bad Mojo has figured that out. The Mojo has decided instead, hey, so what if we enabled a limited time mode where you could choose, everybody could choose to play as a particular character if they wanted, right as we're dropping this new character? What do you know? Now suddenly everyone can try to be the new Bomb Queen.
Nice. That actually sounds like it'd be very like a good time all the way around. Like, yeah, especially if you're
that makes sense coming from you, Mish, knowing like when those few times we played Halo, there were rockets and rockets only, and there were explosions everywhere.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I didn't enjoy those times as much as you did, I think.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Me, a rocket? No. Snipers.
Wow. Wow.
Oh gosh. All right, Paladins. And does that round you off then, Elijah?
That's pretty much it. It's just like otherwise I've just been writing things up and tying things off with my last gig. So yeah,
Gotcha.
It's just I'm very excited to be finally diving back in and exploring weird stuff, because that was one of the things that I was really missing, was exploring more things like Yaiba. What? Oh wait. Oh, I almost forgot. There is technically one more thing, but it's a lot less fun than the other things. So has anyone here heard of a little game? It's very indie. It was self-published, there was a lot of hype surrounding it. It was by this company in Poland, called CD Projekt Red.
Might be familiar with CD Projekt Red, just maybe.
I've heard a lot of things about that company, but I just can't seem to recall any of them anymore.
Yeah, well, you see, I got sent a review code for their hot new game, Cyberpunk 2077, which coincidentally is seemingly only just really released now, based on the way everyone's talking about it. Which is so weird, because I could have swore I heard it already released before, but I guess I was just remembering wrong. And, I had about 25 glitches in the span of 4 hours. Almost all of them were solved, I kid you not, by alt-tabbing. Alt-tabbing, the memory flow of things is such a mess. Characters lip syncing, alt-tab, suddenly they can use their lips again. Sound effects not playing in a high-speed car chase, alt-tab, suddenly everybody can hear everything again. Menus not deselecting and going away, alt-tab. It's the most amazing gameplay feature. I've never encountered a game before that's inherently built around the idea of alt-tabbing 24/7 to make a game functional.
I mean, that is very dystopian technological future right there, and I think this is just an immersion play, personally.
I'm sure it is. It just
it's funny that you should say that, because I was going to say, it sounds like that a modification of yours is malfunctioning or something.
Oh, would that there was a modification to fix everything. But I mean, there are mods for it. Someone's even managed to make it playable in VR. Someone's made it so that you can use the sky trams. There's all kinds of mods, but I haven't really seen anything that's like, okay, here, we fixed the bugs. We made it so that, it works well. And the sad thing is, I don't even think if it was working right, I would still have that many kind things to say about it, because I feel this is like someone who wanted to make it really, it's one of those games where you feel like, did you do any research on how this all this works? On what, goes into an immersive sim? Because it's like they're trying to figure out every solution that was figured out by Looking Glass Studios decades ago for the first time, as if there was no reference point to build so much of this from. Like, it acts like it's this profound idea that there's a combat situation where you can both fight people and, get this, you can be stealthy if you want. That is the big thing, is like, in the tutorial is like, hey, here's the optional objective. You can be stealthy if you want. It's like, wow. Move over every game from 2001. Here is Cyberpunk 2077 making everything you already did and acting like that's somehow a significant accomplishment at this point. I'm so darn confused by so much of this game. It's not even funny, and I feel so sad, because I was really hoping, like, if you had told me that I'd be in love with Yaiba and cringing at Cyberpunk, I would have called you crazy, because I expected it to be the other way around. I expected, okay, Cyberpunk is at 1.5. They have to have fixed most of it by this point. They have not.
I mean, I hate to say it, because my experience has been significantly better than yours, it sounds like, as a matter of the bugs.
Question, are you playing on PC or console?
Oh, PC.
Okay, I'm playing on PC too.
Yeah, console has had some of the worst scenarios out of everyone, to my best knowledge. But yeah, I can't say that I've had too many challenges. Maybe it's something with the details on, like, the graphics card or something like that. But
that is true. Just out of curiosity, are you using Nvidia or AMD?
I'd actually have to double check. It's been so long. But the point being that like it should work on everything no matter what anyways. Like they have these, as long as it's, at least recommended specs and better, every consumer has a reasonable expectation that there isn't going to be a significant difference in the experience other than, hey, faster rates, And that's definitely not what we're seeing in this situation.
No, and I want to still go back and try to find something. I want to find something that'll make me happy because I accept a review copy and I want to find something meaningful. I don't want to just say Cyberpunk bad like so much of the internet already has, but it's making it hard. It's making it so hard, folks.
If you're looking for something to enjoy on it, try just the main storyline campaign. Like main stories, maybe some of the side stories are interesting, but I think it's some of the storytelling is compelling. The rest of it is filler, and you just have to know which is which.
That's an idea.
Just giving you hope. Just giving you that little sliver of hope that maybe. I mean, you have to admit it's at least better now than it was at launch when like you would see bushes sitting in the middle of a building and be like, "Oh, hi, why are you floating in the middle of this building?"
So disappointing because like when I saw the trailers for it, I was like, man, I want to play this. It looks so cool. And then to hear that it's just garbage just makes me so sad. It's like it looked good.
I mean, I would honestly recommend giving Shadowrun another playthrough, especially knowing your interest in Baldur's Gate. Like,
oh yeah,
Shadowrun absolutely fits the guidelines of what I want in Cyberpunk. The interesting decisions, the concept of going virtual in a way that is meaningful and not just a basically a VCR of what the plot is. Like, please Shadowrun.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I'd have to say too, you like Shadowrun Reborn and like the Dragonfall and that. Yeah, I didn't get to play the latter two, but what I played of it is solid. There's user-made expansions. There's a full suite for you to make your own tabletop campaigns. Don't know if they've ever added in voice acting support, but there is solidly written ones. And just like overall, yeah, it's fantastic. And you can play it on virtually anything. They have ports for mobile. They have it on GOG, Steam, the whole thing. Like, Harebrained Schemes went all out for that. And yeah, I highly endorse that too.
Got it. I guess I will stay ready for whatever review it is that you provide for Cyberpunk 2077 again.
There will be alcohol involved. I'll say that. But that rounds it out for me. So moving forward.
Fantastic. Thank you, and welcome to the show. DizzahGee, welcome to the show. How are you doing? What have you been playing?
I am doing a lot better now.
Fair.
And not just from that wonderful conversation, but this weekend I found myself terribly ill, like knocked out. So glad that I had my days off, because if I didn't have my days off of work, I would have been calling in sick level bad.
Good times.
And it got me thinking a little bit, especially because like my brain power was like 15-20% maybe of where it normally is. Like, what sort of games do I want to play in a situation like that?
You know, it's funny because I was about to say, what kind of game would you play in those type of circumstances?
Well, I've been really trying to play more Horizon Zero Dawn because I want to get to the end of it and start getting into Forbidden West. Don't do that.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. I could see where that would not be a good sick game.
Yeah, literally, I went in and I think I spent like 40 minutes just like walking around in one town and talking with a couple of NPCs and being like, I really don't want to go out of this city because I am not going to be able to deal with anything fighting me. And then just like logged off. And it was the worst feeling on earth because I really did want to play. but like the body was just not ready for it.
I feel like in circumstances like that, it has to be like low conflict or like energy committed to your gameplay. So maybe like an MTG Arena or Hearthstone or whatever equivalent that you play.
Yeah. Well, anything that isn't time based is especially nice in that sort of situation because, yeah, if you have to walk away at any given moment because you're just not feeling comfortable, like physical body wise.
Fair.
So, I mean, I will definitely say Pokemon is a very good choice in that sort of situation. You can take as much time as you want to make a decision. You'll make interesting decisions. And it's not that hard, so you can't really mess it up too bad, even if you get punished by not recognizing a weakness or something like that.
Okay, so far we've determined Horizon Zero Dawn bad for when you're sick, Pokemon good. I mean that's a good distinction, right? We have baselines.
Plus, I mean, if you're ever in the hankering for watching paint dry, you can just play RuneScape.
Oh gosh. No, even if I'm feeling that awful, I will watch other things. Like I would much rather at that point watch like a show series that is based off of a video game than I would want to do RuneScape. I'm sorry. Like I'll go and watch like the Advent Children series.
Why would you do that?
Oh, I don't know why, but now in my head I'm seeing like someone making advent calendar out of Advent Children, where every time you open one of the things, you get one clip from the movie out of order, just to make it even more confusing.
Oh my gosh!
The look on Musie's face actually kind of says it all there. I think too.
I'm not saying it's my first choice. Let's be clear. That is not my first choice of a TV show that's based off of a video game I would watch. But I would still much rather do that at that point.
In RuneScape, I mean, look, this chopping trees, gathering materials like that, it's pretty calm and relaxing, right? Yeah?
And getting guys to stop being chickens by helping Dr. Frankenstein, fix them up and, potentially get bitten by a water fountain. Also, two raccoons dressed up as a sheep. I'm revealing way too much about how much I remember about my years playing RuneScape right now. So anyway,
yeah. And I will fully admit that's an MMO I've been able to avoid entirely. So
I haven't played 1 second of RuneScape, so I have no idea.
If it's anything like New World, I'm already out.
It's weird. It's like if Ultima Online, got drunk. It's Ultima Online, but it got drunk.
I have been playing more of the latest Yakuza game and enjoying that immensely. And actually, while you're sick, that may not be a bad choice because it's already so ridiculous. You can just like wish it all off as a fever dream if it's too much for you, and you're good.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely been collecting a lot of garbage cans and making sure to recycle because that's important. Yeah, learning a lot of things and then having ogles of people suddenly throw you into the air and congratulations for your passing your test, like you do in real life.
Yeah, that seems to check out, I guess.
Yeah. I was particularly proud of my moment where there's some good combat in the game, and we were able to, as a party, successfully get an enemy to go into the street and get run over by a car.
Wait.
Yeah, I know. I think we all just heard. Wait, we lost somebody.
Yeah, we lost a Musie. I think what happened there. Oh, did we get it back?
We're coming back.
My Discord does a thing sometimes where it
where it disconnects. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Darn it.
So yeah.
We almost had a glorious badger there for a second. It would have been great. No,
Now it's an unglorious badger.
no, it is an unglorious badger.
Inglorious badgers.
I hate that there was a pun in there. I
Yep.
hate that.
It hit you.
Yep.
It's like looking at an ice cream headache right now. It's so great.
I just as soon as no, as soon as it was said, as soon as it was repeated back, I'm like, oh no, we're. I look, it's not a Quentin Tarantino badger, okay? That's
But it could be. You're saying that it isn't, but it could. But embrace the potential.
the potential that I was hunting Nazis.
You know,
No.
go full on. Learn from Andrew Ryan. Embrace the impossible, and potentially, get beaten up by a future child, and also get constantly harassed by a fake Scotsman.
So specific.
I apologize for smiling as much as I am right now, but you got to deal with this, Mish. You got to deal with this. This is what you've created.
Since I brought the show back and the many episodes that I've had Elijah on, you think I would have been used to this by now, and it just.
I mean, I just gave everyone a very handy recap of BioShock 1. I left out the golf club part.
Oh yeah, there's golf in that game too.
Yeah, there is, and there's even a golf club multiplayer mode in BioShock 2.
Yeah. So Yakuza has golf, BioShock has golf. I mean, it all comes together, really.
Golf has golf. Yeah. Okay.
Full circle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, Dizza, you were saying.
Yes, you're saying Yakuza.
So yeah, there was this time that there was a combat. We ran over our enemy with somebody else's car. Like they just passed by at the right time. Bam.
I had to feel like a bit of an accomplishment just to be able to get that timing or something. And
I can say, one, it was not intentional, and two, they have run over our party far more often than I have been able to successfully defeat anyone else with it. So, I mean, at least the ratio is getting better.
okay. I'm just okay. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, also, we went into a bathroom that you have to be cool enough to go into.
What? How,
Yeah.
how does a bathroom measure how cool you are? Is this like those gates in Fable that talk to you?
No. So there's actually like a person in front of the bathroom, and he checks for your style. And if you don't have enough style, you can't go into the bathroom.
Now, is that just like some of the bathhouses that they have in Japan? Or are you talking actual bathrooms?
So a clear spoiler statement for anyone who has not played Yakuza and wants to do it, because this is a very, very fun moment overall in the game. You've probably at least found that room where somebody said something, but you might not have gone in yet. So I'm giving you the heads up now. If you're still listening, this is on you.
Mm-hmm.
But one would expect, yeah, there's this guy sitting around with a swanky t-shirt on, or not a swanky t-shirt, a swanky collared shirt on, who's assessing your style before you can go into the men's bathroom, no less. I wonder what's about to happen here. Turns out it's a casino.
But does the casino have a bathroom?
Oh, okay. See, that context changes everything. Hold on, no. That context changes everything with the gambling laws in Japan. Like that changes everything. Because any type of gambling has to be done in such secret, and it absolutely would revolve around Yakuza based stories and such. I mean, that changes the whole dynamic of what the bathroom's all about.
I was full bait and switched, and I am sorry to disappoint you. While I did try to search for a bathroom inside the casino, the bathroom, there was not one. They expect you to go outside to the first level.
Well, just find a good, inset where a door is, or, and everything will be fine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That brings a whole new definition to a game of craps.
Oh, God. Why?
Wow.
Why?
My question is, why not?
I
Why
mean,
not have a bathroom in this casino that's in a bathroom?
tell me that you've never been in a bathroom before and you've had a moment where you're like, double or nothing.
If that's the only context you have to that, I feel like that could go so many different ways, though. I mean, no, look, there's so many crappy jokes I can make with this, and I'm just not going to go there, okay? I'm just not. No.
Oh, goodness.
I refuse.
So, yes. I
Well-
desperately wish that Yakuza was a game that was like actively multiplayer, because it would be the coolest experience in the universe to be like doing all of these things with someone. But I mean, that's kind of where Twitch comes in, so that's fine by me.
I guess. What were you going to say, Musi?
I don't remember. I think
Something.
it was just I think I was just gonna say well played.
Yeah.
Yeah, did you stream any of this then too, or?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I will only play that game while streaming. Like, that's a rule for me.
Got it. Okay. Gotcha.
Let's see. What else? I've been playing a game called Core Keeper, which recently launched.
Yep.
And I'm sure you've seen that running around all of the Twitch streamer party threads, and
Yeah.
it's definitely a hype game at this moment.
Yeah, there's been quite a few streamers that I've seen playing that. I know our other co-host in Missing has been playing a bit of Core Keeper too. Like if we can get Hippo on, we can have you two go talk about Core Keeper because he's played a fair amount of it too.
Yeah. I'll give the short synopsis.
Yeah.
It's a survival isometric 2D platforming, or what am I saying? Platforming survival game.
Yep.
And the concept is that you have found yourself warped into the middle of the earth by this magic, because magic. And you have to, one, survive, and two, find a way to activate this magic creature that you have suddenly been like a creature, artifact, we're not quite sure, that's that you've been moved over to. There's a lot to explore, and I think one thing that game does extremely well is give a sense of adventure and of surprise to the experiences you have in spelunking this giant cavern.
Is it the same makers of Graveyard Keeper? Because it looks similar.
I do not know, actually.
That actually is a really good question.
I just looking at it, it's like it has a lot of the same. I guess Stardew Valley has similarities too as well.
Okay, Keeper. Let's see here.
Developer Pugstorm, who also does Radical Rabbit Stew.
It does not appear to be the same developers, because the only thing they produce besides Graveyard Keeper is Swag and Sorcery.
Okay.
Which now is the next game I need to check out, just for the sake of the name.
Yeah. Maybe it's inspired by, and maybe that's part of where that's coming from.
Well, I mean, there's only so many ways you can illustrate that type of platformer, right? They all kind of. I mean, you look at what's that other one? Terraria kind of has that same look. They all kind of have that look.
Yeah, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
I will say one of the things that I think a uniqueness of the game, because it is very, very saturated in the market, is that it has bosses that you can go and fight basically at any time when you're ready for them and when you know that they exist.
Wow. That accommodates your schedule. This really is fantasy.
I suppose that's a nice change instead of having to try to make sure that you're geared up. Otherwise, they just completely get demolished and slaughtered.
I mean, if you're not geared up, you will still get demolished and slaughtered. But with good strategy and things, you can take on enemies far more easily, and you don't have to go and collect a whole ton of items and things. And I think there's a joy in these enemies all being in the natural world and not having to do some special ritual summon for them to come up or anything like that. Like, you don't feel like you're forced into the crafting as much as it's a benefit to you, so you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say all of their textures and icons, like aesthetically, it is just beautiful. You'll be able to customize walls. You'll be able to customize the ground. Farming is available, and all of these different things that you can do between fishing, farming, all of the combat, just running around mining, they all give you talent points periodically to help keep that progression going. And there's small meaningful benefits that I think keep you paced and keep you engaged for longer without just feeling arbitrary.
Okay. I think more often than not, when I've talked to other folks about whether or not to play it, it's something that's been recommended. I know even under bad advice, it was given as, no, you should actually play this title. So I suppose it's one to add to the list of things to actually go check out and actually play.
I would absolutely play it with you. And it is nice that you can multiplayer up to 8, even though it's early access.
That's a nice touch too. Very cool.
Last thing I will note, because I am an appreciator of strategy games and Square Enix, I am very happy to say that my significant other gifted me a copy of Triangle Strategy.
Okay. I'm curious to see what you have to say about that, because I know there's some mixed opinions on the matter.
I am curious to tell you how the combat is, because in the 4 hours and 3 sit-ins that I've had the opportunity to play, I have fought one fight.
What? Wait, in 4 hours? One? What?
So I decided to put it on hard, and in fairness, I had to try that fight twice to complete that one fight.
Okay.
But there is a lot of story that they want to give you right away, which on one end I can appreciate, but yeah, between the tutorials and getting to know everything, and yeah, I'm at maybe not quite 4 hours. I'm probably 3 hours and change.
That's still a lot of time for only one piece.
Yeah, that's a long time to wait to get to the point.
Yeah, that's mildly concerning. And makes you want to go actually. I've got high level views of opinions on it from reviews, but this makes me actually want to go read some about this game and find out what other people have to say if it took you that long to get into the meat and potatoes of a game.
Yeah. Well, and I really do enjoy the story. I want to take the time with it. I want to make sure that I connect and understand where the connections are. And there are 3 major factions, and inside them they have splinter groups, and I've learned all of that. I've seen a little bit of the dynamics between some of those groups already. So they are laying it thick, and there is also morality decision-making process between 3 different elements, and you get to make choices periodically on that, and those sorts of decisions make me take my time, for sure.
I see.
One question. So it's called Triangle Strategy. Are the enemies trapezoids? Hexagons?
I don't even know who the enemy is at this point.
Oh my gosh, you don't actually know who the wow, what?
I don't have a very clear big bad. I have some very antagonistic people so far. But this is very much in the grand strategy way, where there's mystique and there's getting to know everyone, but it's heavy, it's in depth. You're seeing the benefits, the advantages, and the problems with each and every faction. So they really I think they're establishing that humanity in a very interesting way that makes me think that there won't necessarily be a single big bad as much as there will be like people making tough decisions. And maybe there will be one big bad that's kind of guiding it all, but even then, all of the other bads will be basically who's just handling how people are handling the difficulties that come from the actual bad.
Got it.
The combat for the little bit that I have enjoyed so far, actually pretty cool. Definitely not like Final Fantasy Tactics, even though it's the first thing that elicits in your mind when you see that game.
Okay.
It's like, wow, that absolutely has to be it. No, it's not. They give you different techniques that cost points that you regenerate for every turn that you play.
Mm-hmm.
And so there'll be some that you can sustain every single round. There are some that'll help you regain points because you're just not using any and you get another the next round. And then there are some that will use extra. So you have to time everything out really well. And you have to use the techniques that every character has extremely well. It's much more like an Advance Wars or like a Fire Emblem game in that regard.
Okay. So comparing Fire Emblem and imagining how that would work, I'm just trying to like work in my head how like the points would work, because what initially comes to mind is stuff like spell slots and how that would work with some of the other Final Fantasy games and like their older turn-based strat games and stuff that Square does. So and yeah. I'm imagining that I'm probably nowhere near it, but it's the closest thing my mind's coming to right now.
Yeah, it's minimal techniques. You're not going to have a giant roster of things that one character can do all at once, but the few things that you do will be limited, controlled, and then you get to choose like you want to try to figure out the best timing for those things. So yeah, and you'll have some limitations, kind of like how you would have limited items in a Fire Emblem game. Okay. Or limited times that you can attack with a weapon. Instead, they do it as, hey, you can only use techniques some of the time.
Got it.
Oh, but yeah.
I'm gonna have to put a pin in that one and come back to it later when you've got more combat under your belt and tell us more about it, I think.
Oh, most definitely.
Cool.
But yeah, Mish, I think that wraps up all of the things that I've been playing. What have you been up to?
Well, the big one is the one I'm going to save for last because it's the big one I've got to talk about. The thing I did is I made the mistake a couple weeks ago of putting a poll into my Tuesday stream. I was just hanging out chatting. And I put a poll in, like, what should I play? And I got memed on for 2 different games.
Bad Rats and...
Not Bad Rats.
You need to play Bad Rats.
No, I really don't need to play Bad Rats.
Has anyone ever given you a copy of Bad Rats? Because you really should have it.
No one has given me Bad Rats at all.
We need to chip in. We need to all chip in and get her.
No, you really don't have to do this. That's quite all right.
I think we do. I think we do. As your friends, we owe it to you.
No, the games that I was memed on, one wasn't that much of a surprise meme, or I guess isn't much of a meme, but it got meme votes, was Stardew Valley, which I started a new save of that. I really haven't played Stardew Valley since 2016. So it's been a minute. It's been a minute since I've played Stardew, and I know I played it for like the first year, and I tried to like initially go back into it, but in talking about it with some other people during a Tuesday stream, it was set on how to approach trying to do Stardew again and some of the updates to it. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the improvements to the game that I will eventually come across. I haven't just yet, but it's there, I guess. So that's one of them. I don't know, I guess it is what it is for that. The other game I got memed on hard was Phasmophobia. And doing solo runs in Phasmophobia. That was an experience.
Yeah.
I only died once though. So you know what? I'm gonna take that for not bad considering.
There you go.
Of course, I had the benefit of a friend's tech making Phasmophobia even more interesting than it would otherwise be. You know, if you've been to my TikTok, you've probably seen the video that I posted early in the week of "Don't go in the house." That, yeah, Muzi knows exactly what I'm talking about. That made it for an interesting experience. I think that almost made the game a lot more fun than what it has any right being otherwise. Although I guess what I really broke it down to is if you can get over the jump scares that the game causes, it's just a puzzle game.
Mm-hmm. True.
That's really all. Like, a lot of people end up playing it for the scare factor, but it's like, if you can get past the jump scares, it's just a puzzle game.
I mean, I would say a lot of horror games that is the case. Like Dead Space is just very much a thinking man's third-person shooter, and like Silent Hill, they lean so hard on the puzzles that if you want, you can basically nerf the combat and make it be all about like solving esoteric poems and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Even Five Nights at Freddy's, it's basically just a matter of breaking down how the characters work and figuring out a logic pattern. So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Resident Evil, yeah.
Yeah, Resident Evil's another one like that. I guess, yeah, finding the right clues, putting it all together. When I got that far, and when I kind of had that aha moment, it made me realize that I could do the solo runs and do okay with them. I suspect I will be memed on again to play that on stream in the near future.
I'm glad to hear that it was an aha blast.
Not Baja, aha.
That's what I said.
Slight difference there. Played that. I tried to start up Lost Ark. I still haven't had any success in starting that up, just because so many other people have been playing it, and I already have another game addiction that is what it is, and that being Guild Wars 2. And I talk about that a bit on the stream, but the big significance to the playing of it right now is End of Dragons, which is the most recent expansion, dropped. Well, it'd be almost a month ago now, but it was since our last episode of the show, and it was the final arc, or the final chapter of this like huge arc of Guild Wars 2 and what the story has been since the game launched in 2012, bringing about the end of the Elder Dragons that exist, and yet as the title kind of implies, so there's no spoiler in that, right? But bringing an end to that story, and the big thing is, compared to their other expansions, I think this is probably the best one, hands down. The maps look gorgeous, and you can see this on stream because I streamed it. Like, the first couple of vista points, like, I just stopped and just gawked because it was absolutely gorgeous. The new zone is Cantha, which is a revisit from Guild Wars 1. It's a East Asian inspired zone, so there's a lot of culture pulled from Chinese culture and Japanese culture there, and it just looks magnificent. It looks so good, and you can really tell that the developers really put their heart and soul into this particular expansion and bringing the world in Cantha together and alive. And it's been a really easy thing to get drawn back into. So the story itself, I think, was probably their strongest telling of the arc, the story arc. It had a twist that I wasn't expecting partway through, as far as an Elder Dragon and its role, especially given our experiences with other Elder Dragons in the game as a whole. Again, I'm trying to remain as spoiler free as possible, just in case. But it
appreciate it.
Yeah, like given the experiences with other ones like Jormag and Kralkatorrik and Zaitan and all the others, like this particular Elder Dragon presented a twist that I did not prepare for. And it was an interesting way to present and tell that I have this dragon represented. And then the battle itself, oh god, that was so good. best boss battle in the game, hands down, far and away. It was
High praise.
yeah, it is such a good battle, and you can just feel the emotion of what it is in that moment. So again, just reiterating that they really put the effort into this particular expansion. The fight, like it's no secret, I have a lot of alt characters, right? Whenever I played MMO, I always have alt characters. I have no problem redoing this boss fight with other characters. It's just that good. The emotion, the story behind the final boss fight and what it represents is just chef's kiss. So good. It's so good. I really enjoyed that. And I think some of the other just like small features that just draw you back into play, Wednesday I do like Civ streams, right, with other streamers, like Boom Deba and Bailey and others. Like I end up doing that on Wednesdays. We were having tech problems on Wednesdays, and two of us were just fishing. We were like, screw it, we have tech problems. We'll fire up Guild Wars 2, and we're just sitting in a boat fishing. And it's probably one of the better like fishing mechanics in any games, like because I don't know if you've played any other MMO like fishing experiences, but this one isn't like it's got a curve to it. It's not just like, oh, press button, you catch fish. There's actually a little bit of some involvement there in catching it. There's actually benefits of catching the fish, because there's cooking recipes, which gives you boons, which is good for your character. The professions are going to get an overhaul, and the fact that there's a whole roadmap from ArenaNet coming up regarding the game, like this isn't just the end of the game. There's more on the horizon as far as what they're doing with the game. There's I had it up here. Yeah. They're doing profession rebalances. They're doing rebalances to world versus world. So those players that like to do PvP related content, that's getting overhauled here soon. They're going to continue to do Living World content. If you really enjoyed the Living World from season 1 from back in 2013, that's going to be added to the journal. Well, there's a lot of cool stuff in that game. So that, as I've stepped away from one particular game like thing that I've been really involved in the last couple years, this one, I guess I get to go right back to Guild Wars. I guess
It's good to go back and actually find something still holds up.
Yeah, I think it does. Especially for a game that's aged at this point, right? The game's coming up on a decade old, and you can see that in some of the older zones, but some of the newer ones, it really holds up and treads water really well, I think. And if anyone's ever enjoyed the game, if you've ever enjoyed Guild Wars, I think going back and checking out End of Dragons would be worth your time. But that's really all I've been playing. So yeah, before we dive into the news and host topics, I think we're gonna go ahead and take this opportunity to get up and take a break. So if you're watching this live, we're gonna encourage you to get up, move around, stretch, go to the bathroom, whatever it is that you have to do. If you're listening to this on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube, this will only be a moment. But we will see you all after the break. The music coming up, do enjoy it. It's actually composed by our guest host, Muzicchik.
Who's that?
Yeah, right. See you all after the break. All right, everyone. Did we just get Doctor Who in that too? I think we just got Doctor Who in that.
So I find this interesting that this comes back at the same time that we have Muzicchik as a special guest. Like, Unabridged Gamer, are you feeling like, is there some sort of intimidation factor? Like you feel you have to be especially musical this podcast? I need to know.
It's a specific level of lack of sleep, low blood sugar, and still conscious. It's a very specific chemistry level you have to get me at for the diddly.
Is that the whole combination there? Is all the diddly
Here, I thought
diddly?
you were just trying to speak my language. So.
Well, when I was singing "The Hills Are Alive with Sound of Violence" in the break there, that was trying to speak the musical language.
Oh, okay.
I remember once as a kid trying to do "This Is Halloween" as "This Is Halo 3," and I'm going down a rabbit trail that we don't need to go down. So anyway.
Yeah.
The most beautiful thing about this is I'm fairly certain that the Unabridged Gamer would be having this same conversation if none of us were here.
Possibly. Yeah. Anyways, should we talk about some of the gaming headlines that we've stumbled across?
Let us shall.
Let us. I think the big one that is really stuck out to me because I've seen it in a few different sites. I've seen a couple of reviewers talk about it. Is let's talk about Gran Turismo and that mess of things. So for those that don't know, Gran Turismo is a Sony released racing simulation game. Of course, 7th iteration of the game. And what has happened is there was a copy of the game that was released to the press for review. And on day one, there was a patch that changed the entire game's economy that resulted in microtransaction costs that would cause some cars like Porsches to cost anywhere to $80 real US. Keeping in mind that this is a full title release, AAA cost $60 game. So it's a $60 game that had astronomically high microtransaction costs. And the way that the community responded to it is they took to Metacritic and they review bombed the hell out of this thing, receiving the lowest Sony Metacritic scored game on the site. Currently sitting at time, let me just double check this because I think it may have changed. At the time of recording, it is at a 1. It just went up. Yep, 1.7. It was at 1.6 before we went on the air. It's 1.7 currently out of 8,925 reviews. One of the big things that I took away from it is the fact that they did a day one patch to change the economy. In doing this day one economy, the game was down for 30 hours, including single player gameplay. So you couldn't even play single player while the game was down.
Problem.
Yeah. Ooh. Let's discuss the microtransactions, the fact the game was unplayable for 30 hours after that went down, and they did that patch.
I do. Go ahead.
I just wanted to start with, isn't it beautiful to see a bait and switch like this that is trying to take advantage of reviewers? Yeah.
That's is like, as y'all know, I've done a number of like professional press reviews, and like I'm used to, like a day one patch changing things. I still have people tell me that I'm crazy for saying the Surge 2 was full of bugs because the version I had was an absolute train wreck that barely functioned, whereas day one, they fixed all of that for people who bought it.
Sure.
But I can't think of a single game I've ever covered where it's like, no, really, we just added in all of this DLC and stuff like that for this. The closest I can think of was that there was one game that I can't name where there was a mobile version and there was a home PC version, and the mobile version was the version they had ready for previewing, so that was the build I tried, and they openly admitted because it was going to be free on mobile and for purchase on PC, there was going to be a different progression rate, so that I would have to deal with that, and I'd be working with mobile progression rate. But they were straight up about it there and very clear about it there, and even when the product did release, they were very upfront about, this is what if you want it to be free, okay, it's going to take you longer to get through it.
Sure.
I'm still just kind of flabbergasted and just like,
yeah,
that's how you burn. So, and the thing is, this is on the heels of Sony already being notoriously very difficult with like proper websites to work with and getting review codes. I remember Yahtzee had to buy from an escapist fan to get a PS5 because they would not send him it, and they would not send him a review copy for any of the PS5 launch games or anything like that. It's really strange how sometimes it's just like whole sites are getting treated weirdly by Sony, but this is a whole other level. This isn't just you have to buy it yourself. This is, no, we're literally just going to fundamentally change the game and make you all look like liars, because that's not a problem that Games Press already have to deal with.
Yeah. Well, I think that brings up an issue as well as like having always on DRM. Right. Because that always on DRM kind of it creates a situation where you have that first player gameplay that's just not accessible, and as it brings it down, that always on connection, it just completely changes the game. Now you mentioned it, that there have been other titles that you reviewed where there's day one patches that fix stuff, and I find that is fully acceptable, right? They have to have a launch, like a content to go out the door, and then they're like, no, we can fix this, that we can just push after the fact. But to bait and switch, as Dizza described, it's the best way to describe it, because that's really what it is. In researching this, one of the sources was Young Ya, and he was talking about how it could take upwards to 30 some odd hours possibly to get a car unlocked, or enough currency to unlock a single car. 40 hours, like that's a full week's work, like full-time job week's work.
Yeah, it's verging on the same amount of hours that like Battlefront 2 back at launch was looking at having to deal with. And you're not even like getting the thing of like, well, at least I can play Darth Vader now. It's just fictional car with different stats.
Well, and it's funny you mentioned Battlefield, and that makes me think of Battlefield 2042. This game is now scoring lower than that. Yeah.
Well played. Well played.
So I guess 2022 is all about how bottom of the barrel can we hit on these user scores, and developers trying to just scrape everything they can from their player base. Like it.
Well, I will note real quick here again that like Battlefield 2042, it's pretty thoroughly alleged at this point that like it had an absolute cluster frick of development cycle. This does not sound like the case for Gran Turismo. It sounds like they had a perfectly functional game that could have been totally fine, but then they're like, but what if we sprinkled some greed in for flavor?
Yeah. So, I mean, the thing that gets me is what was set. Where is it? It's I'm looking here. Another source I'm getting information from is Kotaku, right? And the game director Kazunori Yamauchi had quotes on this too. And one of the things is that he said is that the patch update previously deployed was intended to rectify an issue with inconsistent reward payouts within the part of the world circuit events. That's a way to put it, I suppose, as opposed to the patch was originally intended to try to scrape you for as much as we could on a full release title and not respect your time as a player of our title.
What were they inconsistent with? Oh, inconsistent with the intended amount of revenue that we are going to receive?
Right.
What confuses me the most is like, I haven't really played Gran Turismo, so I might be in ignorance here, but I don't ever recall there like being that much in the way of DLC or anything pushed with it to begin with. Like, that's never really been a thing. It's a driving sim thing. It's a really impressive tech demo that driving enthusiasts use on their PlayStation. It's not really something that you try to nickel and dime. It's not even like it's got expansions like for Forza. It's really weird to choose this one.
Yeah. I think and there's more to talk on this too. I got more to talk about on it that I have as far as source, but at this, the newsworthy part of it is just the fact that this stunt was pulled, right? If you were to try to grind it out in 40 plus hours just to unlock a single car, like during Young A's video, there was a discussion about how that they're trying to capture other elements of the car culture experience by real world costs. In that regard,
being poor,
right?
Yeah, that's no.
Yeah, it's funny because I think Musi, you and I have had experiences in realms and games where like the idea of respecting time isn't necessarily there, and there's a lot of encouragement to try to grind out, like, well, this is part of the simulation or the living of it, instead of like, no, that's a part of the real life that we kind of hate and we want to escape.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why would we want to go through all that grinding? Like, the part of the game that you enjoy is the game part of it, not the
We're living the fantasy of spending money. Yeah. Man.
Right.
I'm good. I'm good about not wanting. I just don't understand these devs lately, like just trying to nickel and dime every little bit out of you, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
The whole play to win or pay to win mentality.
It kind of is, right? And you'd have to have a lot to be able to do that, because it's $60 for that, and then like $80 for a Porsche. There were some cars, and I'd have to get the specifics again. And again, I'm referencing Young Yang, so you know where I'm getting my information from if anyone else wants to verify. But there's, according to his research, there's even cars that the microtransaction currency could cost upwards to $200 to buy a car.
What is are they modeling this after Star Citizen? Like,
oh my gosh. They can't even fly.
You see, it's like she's watched the show before, because she knows, she understands. Yeah, that's why does it have to cost $200? That just,
as people are suckers and will pay that. That's the thing, is people will pay that if that means that they get the cool toy and get to do the cool things before somebody else does. That's they understand human nature.
This is very fair, but that's the main thing for me. Is like, I understand if like FIFA was doing something like this, or Roblox, or any of these games where there's an established audience that just spends ludicrous amounts of money to get every single piece of content straight away, right away, no questions asked. I don't know that Gran Turismo, out of any Sony property, has that kind of audience. Is the thing that I'm expecting them to get, even by normal whale mathematics, it seems like they're fishing for like 1 to 2 whales here in a pond full of mostly krill.
Yeah. Well, and I think that brings up an interesting point, because they talk about the car culture. Excuse me. Part of the car culture experience, right? And I think part of the car culture experience that people are looking for is to try these awesome, very exotic cars that are expensive, and be able to do that virtually through this game, not the saving up for an impossible cost to be able to drive it.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, not to mention this is a PS5 exclusive, so you already had to pay $1,000 for the console, $700 for the, or not $70 for the brand new copy of Gran Turismo. So you're already over $500 in the hole, and from the sound of the monetization scheme as it currently is standing, you could easily spend $1,000 to get the content that you'd want right now if you want to not have to turn it into a day job, which most people are not going to want to do.
Right. So we talked about this a little bit on the last episode, oddly enough, but so Sony does have a piece of software that allows you to play cross-platform, so you can play your Sony games on your Windows device. And one person's answer for this was to write a script that would act as the control inputs. So you basically open the game, run the script, and it would cause the car to do a constant race over and over and over to build up the in-game currency, so you didn't have to sit at your PC for hours on top of hours a day.
You know, that is probably the best use anyone's had for PS Move in ages, or not PS Now in ages.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah.
Which,
but the fact that you have to even do that,
yeah,
I mean, it just goes to show, like, your game is crap. I'm sorry. Like, if
Yes.
that's what you have to resort to progress in your game, Come on.
I think that's true of a lot of different games or gaming environments where if you had to sit there and grind for hours and that is the gameplay experience, you're not doing it right. Just to get currency, like it's one thing to do that for if you're trying to also get loot and everything else out of it, and this is part of the level up experience. But if it's just to make in-game currency, no, then it's just work. And if I'm gonna work, I think I'd rather do something else and make. I don't know.
Actually pays you, maybe.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Kidding.
Yeah. So,
Well, I'm getting really tired though of unfinished games getting released, charging you full price for said games, and then going ahead and adding in these douchebag microtransactions. You know, I don't know what's happening with video games in the last decade, 5 years. I want to say 5 years. It's been getting really bad, but they gotta stop this because it's getting ridiculous.
You know, it's funny. During the Xbox One release, there was a bunch of hype around, like a lot of people being upset about the always on DRM, like with Xbox and their games. And one of the big things that Sony said about the PS4 is like, you can have hard copies and not have to be online. And now that aged like, fine milk. In a way that, it just, there's so many different things about this. Of course, the game director Kazunori Yamauchi, I'm gonna slaughter that because of the vowels, and I apologize for that. Did address this recently, as early as this morning. So this would have been last Friday night in Japan. But he addressed it. Thank you for the continued support and feedback on Gran Turismo 7. Your voices have not gone unheard. I would like to apologize for the frustration and confusion caused last week with our patch update, which resulted in not only server outages, but also adjustments in the in-game the in-game economy, which were not without clear explanation to our community. Because of that, this was reported at roughly 10:30 Central, 11:30, almost noon U.S. time, where there's a rectification coming. So the review bombing, the player base by doing this has made their voices heard. Thankfully, in this case, because oh boy, it's sad that players have to resort to review bombing to get their voices heard, but that's what's being done here. So what they plan on doing is increase the rewards in the events in the latter half of the world circuits by approximately 100% on average. So basically doubling their reward payout, which is a nice additional high reward for clearing circuits on all gold and all bronze results. Increased rewards on online races include a total of 8 new 1-hour endurance races and events with a higher reward payout. And it goes on and on. This is cited through Kotaku. Increase the quantity of used in legend cards that are given at any given time. Increase value payout, unlimited time on live developed services, further world circuit events. And this can all be found on their report. This was written by Ethan Gach, which was released at 11:30 Eastern today on Kotaku. So I guess we're talking about it now, right? And we talked about some of the issues revolving around the release of this game. But it took review bombing down to the worst scored Sony game on Metacritic for there to be a response from the developers.
That doesn't really surprise me with Sony these days, though. They're so obsessed with prestige above all else. If the thing isn't the most popular thing ever, then they just use that as an excuse to kill it. I mean, just look at what happened with Days Gone, which has still sold an incredible amount of copies, and they're still like, it did not do well enough. It wasn't good enough. We're not going to make another one of those. They wouldn't want to have to say that to Gran Turismo. So yeah, they're going to try as hard as they can to save face with it because it's something that they won't actually want to give up on.
Mhm.
Do you think it's a little too late though? Like, do you think they are going to be able to save face on this?
That's a good question, isn't it? Because it takes forever to build up trust, right? But it only takes one solid bogus act to completely have it come down like a house of cards. And this one really, it could have been that situation in that scenario. Absolutely. It just, I think this sets a scary precedent as far as like developers releasing games too, with that mentality of like, oh, we can just change the in-game economy after it launches, especially after the reviews come out about it. Because if you go to Metacritic and look at the reviews from professional reviewers, this game got an 87 out of 100. That's not bad. I mean, I see you wanted to say something, and I feel like you're the most qualified to comment on this, Elijah. But
the main thing I'm thinking about is like, this isn't actually a first case example of an economy being changed after a game's launched. One of the weirdest cases being Two Worlds 2, which at launch had like cheat codes like classic games and stuff. There was a whole mess of things that were really nice. But then when they decided that they were planning on making a Two Worlds 3 and releasing an additional expansion for it, they locked half the cheats behind DLC, as I understand it, and the rest are disabled. And this is on top of them already having an incredibly intrusive DRM where you have to give them your home address to use the multiplayer.
what?
Yeah, that's why I've never played the Two Worlds series, because unless you want to play on console, you have to give them your freaking home address to play on PC with multiplayer, because that's how intrusive their DRM is. It's insane.
That DRM
So, like,
is worse than Ubisoft. Good lord.
Yeah, there have been fringe cases of weird stuff like this happening for over a decade now, but it's never been quite as just wow as right now, because just especially with like a major Sony property, it's extremely weird to see this all playing out this way. I don't understand what benefit they thought they were going to get out of it, because yes, obviously they thought they were going to get some kind of money, but how much of it was worth risking this?
Sure.
And I just sorry, go ahead.
I think there's something to be said about changing a game's economy at post-launch, right? But I think that if you're going to do that, you have to do that which benefits the players instead because of feedback.
Battleborn's a great example of that. They fixed a ton of the grind and made things work a lot better for players. Unfortunately, it was a little too late for that one.
The one that wasn't too late, and the one that immediately came to mind for me, was Diablo 3 and the real world auction house there.
Oh yeah.
Right, because the loot drop tables and everything involved in that had a really rare, like high unlikelihood of not getting good loot and anything that costs money because of the real world auction house. And when 2.0 of the game dropped, they completely got rid of that. The loot table changed, and because of that, the entire in-game economy changed. But that was to the benefit of the players. I don't think there's any issue in anything that improves quality of life of a game. I think that's, unless I'm just way out in my thinking, I feel like that would be fine if it improves quality of life. But in the case of Gran Turismo 7, is like this. It feels so bait and switch. Like I'm, like in the States, I'm kind of surprised there isn't an FTC involvement, or there isn't a future pending with the FTC with bait and switch, because that's kind of shady.
I can tell you right now that a lot of critics, whoever reviewed this and is now seeing this happen, and is probably getting backlash and a lot of bullshit for just reviewing the game and not knowing this was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
If it weren't for the fact that Sony had such a massive pull right now in the online collective conversation, they would gladly just blacklist them at this point. The only reason they aren't going to be able to is because there will be people angry that they're not covering them, because this is wholly unacceptable. And even going beyond the just blatant greed, just like fundamentally changing something right after everyone's reviewed it, is just like the product they reviewed doesn't exist anymore in that capacity.
Yeah,
that's a flagrant lie.
Well,
that is such a such a line crossed that I don't actually know the words to contextualize just how much. If anyone smaller than like Sony or Microsoft pulled something like this, there would be consequences.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, it's damaging to a reviewer's reputation, right? Because they would review something and talking about a certain product, and then it's completely switched. So if you look at what's they had written about, it's damaging if you don't have all the context around it, and that's just it's so screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess like. I'm glad to see that they're doing something. I think it sucks that it took what the efforts that it did. I'm glad for the fans of the series that they're getting some like, oh yeah, we screwed up, and they're getting their game the way that was
something
intended.
out of
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
They're getting some kind of recompensation. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see if that's. I guess the fact that just even seeing the score go up a tenth of a point since we've gone live, it's potentially a sign. So I almost want to just and the way where I'm tracking our shows and how we talk about things, starting with this episode, I can literally put a pin in this one and just come back to it and go, all right, has this changed? We can even come back to it in a few episodes and be like, by the way, just a quick update, because I kind of want to see if this changes with that release that came out, or that statement that came out from the game director. Yeah. Speaking of games that are trying to take advantage of their player base, Dizzah, I saw something in our discussions that you wanted to discuss, especially since you play the game involved.
So Storybook Brawl is a game you've heard me talk about pretty regularly. While it wasn't in my list of games I played before, I got a couple of hours in between now and then. And then this bomb took place. So Storybook Brawl is a game that got produced by basically an offshoot of a Blizzard team that decided to break away from them. And great for them on that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with that, Good Luck Games is very independent, doing their thing, and they probably want to make some money, so they found somebody who would purchase their business. And that would be great if it wasn't, an NFT company.
No.
Yeah. So this cryptocurrency company is called FTX, and their intention is to add NFTs into this free-to-play game.
Of course.
So you're taking an actively competitive game where one of the big concepts is that everybody gets to play on an even and relatively fair playing ground. And yeah, we're just going to throw that out the window potentially.
Yeah.
Specifically, one of the points that they wanted to make on it was that these NFTs would not just be for cosmetic purchases.
Oh gosh. Even Ubisoft didn't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's.
We are given a generic assurance from Good Luck Games that the integration will be ethical and based on fun. And I don't know if there's anything really ethical about what's going on right now with NFTs. To be honest,
look, that is just look. Trying to say that anything NFT related is just bull. Okay, it's just garbage. It's a steaming pile of monkey shit. Okay, it really is. There's nothing ethical about NFTs. It's garbage.
It's a scam.
It
is a scam.
It is a very uncoordinated pyramid scheme, which is kind of amazing too. Like, even by comparison to most pyramid schemes, it's just so all over the map.
Yeah. That's exactly what this is, and it's one. I can see someone trying to make the arguments, well, it's a free-to-play games. Like, there's so many different ways. And some of their moderators in their Discord, kind of reading through this, reported by Eurogamer, some of their moderators are like, look, we'd understand that there's other ways to try to monetize the game because it is a free-to-play game, and we'd accept that. But NFTs is so unethical that it just, like, there are moderator staff that had left their Discord and whatnot in protest of this change.
Yeah. Yeah, and thankfully the community is also I was about to say photo bombing. Wow,
review bombing,
rate bombing this terribly. I guess they could photo bomb as well if they really wanted to, but
it's not without question.
How do you take a photo of crypto? That's all I want to know. But yeah, I mean, yes, but yeah, I don't see any interest in continuing to support this game, which is a game that I have otherwise enjoyed rather thoroughly, if this is where it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact is, like, Good Luck Games had the opportunity to choose who they sold to. They specifically went this route. And so while I would like to imagine that Good Luck Games could make something else and have a different project that works perfectly well, I wonder about that decision-making process as well. Like,
yeah, so I had to look around because it's not on Metacritic, but if you go to the Steam page for it and go down to recent reviews show overwhelmingly negative. 16% of the 512 users in the last 30 days are positive. 16% in the last 30 days out of 512. That's a lot of negative. And it's crazy because you see it from Squeenix, you see it from Ubisoft now with Good Luck Games. Freaking Dr. Disrespect's game development companies doing NFTs in his game. Why?
I'm not even surprised with Disrespect. Beam has, like, no shame at this point. After the bathroom incident, I'm not even surprised by that. Like, it's just like that's his whole brand is just running into train wrecks. But yeah, I mean, I've even seen people tweeting out from GDC, and they're actively cringing whenever the crypto bros are trying to get into that space because they're like, no. And even at companies that are actively trying to pursue it, yeah, it's pretty much Yves and the people up top at Ubisoft who want Ubi to have NFTs. Their developers have very openly been like, we don't like this. This is not a good idea. We're your employees. We're telling you it's not a good idea. But unfortunately, the people in charge of these particular companies are not really that good at apparently researching anything. And making sure that they're not being scammed.
No, look, if there's anything to be said about it, it's how can we make as much money as we can from this? Users be damned, environment be damned, what have you, as far as what it is that they're trying to make money from.
What I don't understand is how this is even legal. That's
a good question too. That's a really good question, right? Especially from the
make it legal.
Well, in the question of NFTs in general, right? Because they're and like just in broader scope of NFTs, right? There's I don't know if any of you are familiar with Angry Joe. Long time YouTube creator had a reaction to some bro going to a vending machine where he could physically buy a QR code for an NFT so he could buy the color blue. How
do?
Yeah, like how do you respect an ownership of a color?
I don't know. Ask Anish Kapoor.
I mean, the thing that like people have tried to do that before. It has never ended well.
No, a lot of cases, no. Like the only really successful case of,
but you don't actually own it, though. Like,
right?
You don't actually ever own. You just have a certificate that says that you
Right.
have access to the thing that says you have the thing. Like, that's how freaking messed up and weird it is. Like, it makes no sense.
Mm-hmm. It's completely bewildering, and you're absolutely right. It's just this claim of a certificate, right, of ownership, but that doesn't mean anything. The eyes of the law
you don't
see
even
it.
own the whole thing. You own like a percentage of the thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like you might own 1% of the color blue.
yeah. And it's a
What
particular.
does that even mean?
The thing that's even dumber is the fact that it's a particular hex code, right? So it's this particular hex code of blue. So you could be like, well, that's my blue, and it's like, no, it's a different hex color. And it's such a stupid, incredibly dumb argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way to claim ownership. But look, there's a reason that copyright exists, because that is observed by a government that will protect you.
But like, what?
I think we lost. No,
Yep.
we lost her. We lost her right at the opportune moment.
Oh,
The Crypto Bros disconnected her.
That's the Crypto Bros.
Stop it!
Dang, Crypto Bros.
As you were starting to say, Musi.
Anyways, yeah, no, the problem is like with NFTs is that they can basically steal your intellectual property and sell it without your permission.
Yep.
And it's like, so if somebody were to decide that they were going to make my image an NFT, I would have absolutely no say in that.
In their claim, right?
And they're getting away with it. Like, I don't. It's like,
Yeah.
well, they don't actually own that image. They just own
The blockchain.
the blockchain. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They own the receipt. That doesn't
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah. Like, how are people even buying into this and thinking that it's like a legitimate investment? Because it's not. It's total scam.
It's the misunderstanding of how like cryptocurrency works with decentralized banking and such, right? It's like, oh, it's decentralized, and it's like that's one thing with money itself. But when you start talking about these different things that have applied ownership to, it doesn't work the same way. That's why,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, if someone tried to, we'll just use, for instance, my experience. Like, I'm a photographer, right?
Mhm.
If someone tried to take one of my images and try to sell it as an NFT, someone could try to say, well, I own the NFT, and be like, great, I have the metadata that shows that I'm the original taker of this, and according to US copyright law, I own this. And if I were to hire a lawyer, I am going to win that, and you're going to be paying me a lot of money.
And the best part is you have a definitive receipt, so I know exactly how much money you made.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that's why, like, when like criminals were looking into like the NFT thing, at first they're like, "Ooh, this is awesome," but then every government organization was like, "Ooh, great, you gave us a perfect dotted line to you." Because yeah, it's just like the only really good thing for any of this blockchain stuff is tracking someone down if you need to call them on their shit.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm
like
out.
the fact that the video game companies are even considering these, it boils my blood, because it's like, why? Like, it's worse enough. Like, it was worse enough when they started doing the microtransactions and charging you for skins and things like that. Like, I get that for free to play stuff, but even games like Siege, where you pay for the game and then you've got to pay for like the season passes if you want, like, if you don't want to grind to get operators, you gotta pay, and you gotta pay. Like, it's the worst. But then, like, the thought of like gouging even more on top of that, it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, enough is enough.
You know, the closest thing that could ever like make sense for this for me, and I am trying real hard.
Stretching
Is-
that all that is definition, yeah.
is like thinking about collectible card games like Magic the Gathering and having some sort of digital equivalent where you can be like, there are only 300 Black Lotuses out there in the world, and we have exactly who it is who has them. Everyone else who has one has a counterfeit. Like, I get that in a collecting community.
Yeah.
But even then, like, what's the purpose in Storybook Brawl where the cards are not cards? Like, there aren't any collectible items in there that are limited, and if they do become limited, they immediately affect gameplay.
Is it maybe like, well, you get the art behind the card that's in it? Like, I guess I don't even understand what they would try to sell in it.
And they're
No,
specifically
'cause-
saying they don't want to do anything cosmetic. So no, actually.
Yeah, the closest thing to like getting art would be like a Steam card. Like some of the Steam cards you get on there, like you'll get some concept art that you can then download and use as like a screen, a screen background or what have you.
It doesn't make any sense.
No,
to
it
me.
really doesn't. It just doesn't. And
Like I get the point with like the collectible side of things, but why can't you
just do a microtransaction.
just sell
then.
do a microtransaction, or I don't know, sell a physical copy of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
what's wrong with making physical copies of things and like
Funko
collecting
Pops.
physical copies? You know, that's where the value is having that physical copy that you can pass down. It becomes an antique, then it becomes, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Like digital media isn't something that you can preserve forever. Like stuff breaks down.
Yep.
Hard drives fail.
Yep.
Like it's not a
Mhm.
sustainable preservation method. Then they've proven that time and time again.
Yeah.
That you cannot preserve humanity as we are right now. You can't preserve our history electronically. You can't.
Mhm.
It'll be like poof out of existence. Archaeologists won't even know we existed in this form. You know, if we were just to go poof right now, all of our hard drives would be degraded and no good. They wouldn't be able to read anything off of them. So,
I'm trying to find it here. Thankfully, there's some talk about how there's some sales of NFTs that are just dropping. In general, like there's an Ethereum-based Formula One NFT game that's actually just fully shutting down.
good.
What's this from The Verge? NFTs will be on Instagram soon. According, yeah. Okay, so that's
What?
Yeah.
such a.
I think there's a certain risk and a certain understanding, especially within people who are in media and streaming, that like if you talk about like something that is bad, like people who are interested in that will no longer have any interest in like getting you involved in the games that are related to that.
Mhm.
And I think it's one thing to do that to like a genre or a particular company, because those sorts of things can change conceptually. Like blockchain doesn't change as a function. Like I am very comfortable in saying that I cannot ever imagine a scenario where blockchain would be something of value to anything that I would want to promote to like
No.
a community in gaming, like straight up.
Well, I think that's just that's true of anything in blockchain in general, right? Like, there's so much of it. It's such a pseudo investment in the long run of things, and the only people that really benefit from it are really the people at the top. So it really goes back to it being called a pyramid scheme.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead and blacklist me from your promotions. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so hurt by not being involved in your schemes. Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, you could twirl your own mustache. It's included in the bundle.
Oh,
And it's-
snap! I want to do that. Do I get to do that?
that was amazing.
Thanks.
So I guess the question is, since you're a player of Storybook Brawl, Dizza, will you continue to be playing it?
I feel like I hold out now until there is some very clear response that like this is not the direction of where this is going to go, or they say, "Hey, we're gonna wait until something works out that makes sense for the fans very very clearly, and then it's going to be the moment that something happens that is actively, unethical. That's the other time to walk away." I think as someone who's playing the game right now, pulling away at this moment sends a very strong message.
Yeah, absolutely.
But until there is active harm on there, I'm willing to kind of wait it out and wade back into the water over time. Like if you're saying I'm thinking about it but I'm not going to do anything, yeah, maybe a month down the road I'll go and check it out and see what's actually happening with it.
Okay, that's fair, I guess, and see what happens with it and see if anything unethical does occur with it. I guess I'm pretty hard in stepping away from a lot of my games that do dumb things like that.
Or the moment that there is a similar game, even if it's not necessarily better, but like conceptually works in a similar way to Storybook Brawl, that unfortunately isn't Blizzard's version, then
let me introduce you to Mtg Arena. Right? Yeah, I know. See, Musi and I are both players of that one, so.
Yep. So they've been getting kind of money hungry and pushing out releases way too often, way too fast, more than necessary in the last year.
I mean, I get it. Like, we're not all inside all of the time, and you can't print money quite the same way that you did during the pandemic. Like, I can see how that would put some pressure on for some people.
Sure. But, I mean, it's as a consumer, it gets exhausting when they push update after update after update after update, and, you want to keep up with the meta of what's happening. But, you can't because it's just coming out too fast. And you want to keep up, you unfortunately have to pay to keep up. So, and I'm not willing to do that. I'm not willing to fork out a bunch of money more than I need to. Like, I have put a little bit of investment into MTG, but not a lot. And I feel like I've given enough money to them to warrant, like, okay, I have the right to keep playing this game now and not feel guilty about not paying any money into it.
Sure.
So
I feel like, though, like at least with that one, their business models based on microtransactions, right? But they also don't completely make you grind hours upon hours for currency. Like, getting their in-game currency, it's I think reasonable.
It is reasonable. Like, if you do your daily quests and you do that at the very minimum, you can, rack up some coins. It's not impossible to play for free. It's really not. But it's just, I wish they would slow down just a little bit. You know what I mean? Let us get used to the meta of the release before they just, okay, time for a new one.
I think as a collector of the physical cards and seeing how fast they're releasing expansions, that might have something to do with it too. Because they're coming out pretty fast there too.
There's that, but there's also just this. There's a grind that I'm seeing with a lot of like live service games that's very similar to that. Like that, y'all remember that's what drove me away from Overwatch. Was I was Symmetra and Mercy main, and they're like, "Ooh, we need something new. Let's just completely break these two characters and make them completely other characters." And there was no real need for that. There was no real call for that. And now they're doing that again with Doomfist. He's now going to go from DPS to a tank and have completely different movement. And just like, there's a lot of games like this that are just so obsessed with constantly retooling things. And I get it. You want to keep things fresh, but it's while I might not be able to personally play it because it sends my anxiety skyrocketing, I really respect that Respawn does not constantly change everything in Apex Legends and instead actually lets its seasons breathe a little bit, because by doing that, you actually get to the point where you want something new, whereas some of the companies are just chasing after anything new. We have to do something new every week. Throw it, Snoop Dogg!
Get us in that mode where we're like, we want more! Give us something new! Not like, and they're almost like overcompensating or jumping the gun a little bit on how fast they think that we want new content.
Why this?
And it is becoming kind of unnecessary, and they're not. I think they're just hurting themselves more than anything. You know?
Oh yeah, they are just grinding away, chasing after things, and just burning themselves out so much. And the irony is, pretty much anytime I've seen a company not try to do this and just do like a small update here and there, it's usually some of the best received stuff. Like Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War just received a remastered map from one of the older games, and they got a couple other little updates here and there. People are loving it. It's like, hey, I actually have a reason to play this COD game more than a year after release. Awesome. Or like when Battlefield 4 had the community operations and that one other free DLC map. Like they had just 2 maps after they had already done all of its season pass content, and they're like, yeah, we'll just throw this in for free. And it was tiny, but people got so psyched about it that for both games, it's led to a significant number of people playing again. It doesn't take much. It just has to be warranted. It has to be something that people actually want.
Yeah.
And then you get the players in.
Well, yeah, I'm even noticing that with Far Cry 6 that they're releasing DLC out like so fast, and it's like, because I remember thinking back to like Far Cry 5. I mean, they waited a while before they released DLC, and Far Cry 6, it's just like the game wasn't even out for long, and they already had DLC out for it. I'm like, huh?
Allow me to savor this a little bit. Yeah.
How about we finish the game first, you know?
Allow me to savor the content that you've already given me.
Yeah. I'm not going to buy more content when I want to play the main content first. Like,
yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, or use that DLC as an opportunity to get people to re-engage in the game.
Exactly.
Persona 5, fantastic example. Like,
yes, go ahead.
the Royal brought in a new character and a new couple of chapters that were of interest to a number of people. Big fans would be like, oh yeah, it's been long enough. I absolutely want to go in again on this. And then people who heard all of those big fans initially were like, oh, this was like a critically acclaimed RPG. Sure, I'll give it a try now that there's something that is interesting on here. I wasn't really holding onto it before, but now it makes sense.
Yeah, I think there's ways to do that, and I think I feel like I wonder what that does for crunch culture too, with the developers, like the developers that are in the trenches, right? If the things are being pumped out even faster than they were previously, what does this do for the devs that are working on it? Like, how exhausted are they?
No doubt. No doubt.
Like, you're just gonna just burn and churn them, and it's like you think that some kid is gonna just be like, oh, I'll do it, I can make video. You're gonna run out of people eventually.
Yeah, when your entire workforce is burnt out,
yeah,
it's not gonna be good.
Right. Speaking of developers that have been changing some of their releases and such, another release that's coming up is from Rockstar, and that is Rockstar's to launch a GTA Plus, which is a $6 a month service to give you additional goodies for Grand Theft Auto Online. For the $6 a month, I just had this up. Of course, I didn't. I lost it. I had so many things. I'm such a horrible multitasker when it comes to everything I've been trying to keep up here. But so for $6 a month, you get an extra $500,000 delivered automatically to your Maze bank account. A Principal Divest 8, along with an HSW orange tip or glitch liveries. So you get liveries, you get an auto shop, and if you already own an auto shop, you can relocate at no cost. Waived LS car membership fees. Current LS car members pay $50,000 per event. Yacht owners can upgrade to the Aquarius Super Yacht at no additional cost. There are
of luck.
yeah, pretty much. There are other like clothes liveries. You get a selection of free paints and emblems for your auto shop, 3 times the Grand Theft Auto money in RP on Heo's special work race series, and 2 times rep points in the street race series. So 6 months a month gives you a more likely pay to win.
I just want to say, rest in peace, Grand Theft Auto 5 single player expansion, because oh my gosh, I'm sure someone who was working on that really at this point just hates hearing about Grand Theft Auto Online about as much as I do.
Yeah,
I think everyone does. And the fact that I'm constantly baffled by the amount of money that Rockstar brings in through Grand Theft Auto Online. I'm floored by it. But
I love that it's the exact opposite of World of Warcraft and other MMOs, where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have the subscription service, and then they eventually work out to a free-to-play model and then add in like the option of a subscription for these bonus things. They're just like, no.
Yeah, like, there's one thing to talk about a subservice, and I think you mentioned WoW, and Final Fantasy 14 is the other one, right? There's one thing where if it's paying for the maintenance of the servers of your game, right? Even if some people would argue that's an antiquated business style, that at least is an argument for a subservice. This is just like, hey, how would you like to get more benefits, more likely to win on things?
I mean, can we really be surprised? This is Rockstar Games, who have been selling fictional in-game gift card, like credit card things, for over 5 years now. My gosh, that's like the amount of blatant greed. I mean, this is not only is this Rockstar Games, who themselves have a very high influence opinion of themselves, but also let's not forget that the CEO currently of 2K not only proudly declares how much he doesn't play games and how that makes him better at the business somehow, but that once during a stockholding meeting was just like, oh yeah, I firmly believe that we can make even more money out of GTA Online. Like, we have not even fully tapped mining consumers for money. That's not an exact quote. That's basically though what he was saying in that thing. And just like, that is their entire methodology with this. It's just like, we can get more. We can get. I expect GTA Online to still be getting updates when I'm an old man, just because there's like 3 people still playing and they're still paying like $10,000 a month.
Yeah, why develop GTA 6 when we're making so much money? I mean, it's the Skyrim model too, right?
Yep.
Oh, why would we make another Elder Scrolls game when we're making so much money off of Skyrim? It's the same. It's the same idea.
It really is.
I'm glad you actually bring that up too, because that reminds me, because like Red Dead Online tanked with Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, that did not go over well. They tried to do the same milking thing, and they couldn't. It face planted hard, and at this point,
well, how are you going to race with horses? A lot of the GTA Online stuff is based around races, heists, that kind of thing.
Oddly, it wasn't that was the problem. It was weird monetization and just like insanely high grinds to get any of the content. Like, it was essentially kind of like a hub area, sort of like a weird chimera of GTA Online and Destiny set in the Wild West, which on paper doesn't sound like something that you would screw up that easily. But Rockstar found a way to just keep pissing their players off to the point that they had to sell it for $5 standalone from the main Red Dead Redemption 2 to try to pull players in.
Oh, that's never good.
That's rough. Yeah, I feel like at the core of this whole idea of what they're launching here is it's a way for them to create a monthly revenue from a game that the only thing they're offering is a pay to win model for what they're giving their customers. There's no like actual benefit to anything else. Like a lot of other subservices, at least you're getting something out of it, whether you're supporting the game that you're actually playing and investing your time into, or you're getting something that's mailed to you or whatever. But this is just, how would you like to do things faster? Well, that also tells me that the people that don't pay that, you don't respect their time.
Okay, but let's be real. Like GTA Online's economy is so screwed. Like,
Oh yeah,
it's so out of whack, and I don't
And the
even know if
hackers.
yeah, like I don't even know if this is even gonna help anybody. If you think about it,
Yeah.
Like you think about the player base that already exists and how many quadrillions of dollars they have already. Like, how is this really gonna make any difference?
the
In the long run.
points that you get from other stuff, I don't know, it makes no sense. I I'm not gonna lie, I secretly hope that this thing just completely falls on its face, but
Yeah. Yeah, it would be nice if GTA Online just finally just stopped existing. I don't know.
yeah.
We just need to really piss off Trevor against it, and then it'll go away. He'll make it happen.
That's true.
One can hope. Right. Yeah, I guess we'll see how this one plays out. I think that's all we really had for news, but I did have one more topic I wanted to bring up for discussion for us, especially since we have a musically inclined guest. Is one of the big things in video games that people often talk about is the soundtracks behind video games. So what I want to ask folks of the panel tonight is what is an OST that's really made an impact for you? Do you still listen to that OST? And would you recommend it?
Ooh. So there are a lot of OSTs that I really enjoy. Stuff that's particularly thematic and matches the overall aesthetic of the game, Persona 5. Things that just give like a grand view of what the world is like, and give you the true fantasy feeling. Final Fantasy VII, lots of other Final Fantasies along with. I would like to point out a soundtrack that I think may be better than the game storytelling. And that is, it's getting a remaster here soon enough, Chrono Cross.
Oh, okay. All right.
Every single time that I hear that introductory song in Chrono Cross, like, I get chills down my spine. I love it. It gives me the environment and the aesthetic of, like, hey, we're going to be in an archipelago where we're going to be going and exploring all of these different islands. Weird things are going to happen, but like full adventure mode, let's go. And the game itself, while being really good, I don't think stands for me as well as the music does for that game.
Okay.
Especially when the main premise of it is that you have your main universe and this parallel universe. The music will change when you're in the same area between the two worlds, and it'll be in like little subtle ways, but meaningful ones. So like you'll go into like a fishing town, and you'll have like guitar will be the main aesthetic for the track while you're in like the main world, but it'll be like mostly winds in the next one.
Okay.
Like bits like that just absolutely tell a story without having to say a thing, and I love that. And I think Chrono Cross did that perfectly.
Okay.
I think I know which one I'm going to go with.
Go for it.
It is definitely an outlier, but I genuinely think that it has to be the one I go with because it's a soundtrack that I voluntarily listen to regularly. I listened to it earlier this month, even during a writing session. Remember Me soundtrack, the inclusion of how it works its music into everything, into its storytelling, and that there are very few adventure games, because like you have stuff like Uncharted that's like, this is bombastic, feel sad now, blah, 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 blah. Remember Me feels like the composer actually got to be in on the conversation, be like, okay, but what sort of emotions is Nilin feeling in this moment? What do we want the player to surmise from this world and everything? Like when you first escape the prologue area and can see the heights of Paris in the distance while you're in the slums, you can hear the strings being taut between, being loving and angelic, but also being somber because it's that far out of reach. It's completely in sync with the visuals, with the animation, with the voice acting in a way that I've very rarely seen. And on top of that, they have dynamic audio mixing for the combat, where the better you perform, the more like enjoyable tracks that just instantly trigger that synesthetic part of your brain and gets it excited and pumped. And whenever you desync, you can feel it desync. It's enough that it actually genuinely makes you physically not want to get hit and want to ensure that you're performing better. Not because of some massive XP gain or anything, or because of a score system, but because you are that drawn in and engrossed by it. I wouldn't call it immersive because it's a third-person action game. It's kind of hard to picture yourself just spontaneously becoming Nilin. But it doesn't matter because you're that invested anyway. And that I can remember moments from the game while listening to the soundtrack is incredible. And be able to just recall these fantastic moments that I will gladly replay again. And making it be that potent and wanting to revisit again for being such a linear game with next to no branching whatsoever, that's really hard to do in this industry. So yeah, for me, Remember Me sound like Don't Nod has always been really good when it comes to musical stuff, but I still feel like Remember Me, like just that first one, they hit it out of the park so well. I will say they also did a really good job with Vampire as well. I think that was the same composer there as well. But Remember Me, it has such a wide range because it's willing to use classical and electronic. It does whatever it needs to, and that agility is something that a lot of games don't seem to give their composers the freedom to.
Okay. A good answer. Okay. Do you have an answer, or do we want to save yours? Because I feel like you've got a lot that you can talk on the matter, Musi.
Yeah, I can talk about it. So I got like, my mainstream favorites like Skyrim. I listen to the Skyrim soundtrack a lot. I find that obviously it follows that very orchestral. They got the chorus. They've got all the makings of a good fantasy movie, and soundtrack type thing happening in there. But it's one of those soundtracks that kind of hits me in the gut, because it's just so beautiful. Like their melodies are enchanting. It just draws you into the world even more. So I think they did an amazing job of the music. And there's a reason why it's like one of the top soundtracks of all time. But there's also other more obscure soundtracks out there from indie developers that don't get a lot of hype or recognition. One of them being the Norwood Suite. The Norwood Suite is one of those more obscure games. It's a little bit older, but it's based around music. The theme is of the game. It's solving a mystery, so it's not solving puzzles, but it's all wrapped around like the music is very integral to the game. And the soundtrack is very unique. It's fun, and I don't think it gets enough credit for being original, like a really neat piece. It's a whole thing. It's like an hour long. I think the soundtrack. Okay. But it's definitely worth. The game is definitely worth playing and experiencing, and the music stands on its own.
Okay.
Another really good soundtrack is from Gris.
Gris
yes. is it's a beautiful game.
Yeah.
But the music, I don't think the game would be as good without the music. The music makes that game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember being very stunned as I was playing this game. I was visually stunned, but I was also like my auditory senses were just like going, wow. They did a really good job on that. Let's see. Like those are the ones that come to mind right off the top of my head. But I mean, there's so many. If you think about it, like music as a whole is kind of one of those underappreciated things, especially when there's already a visual component. It's kind of overlooked. It's a second thought. You're more immersed in what you see. You hear it, but you don't necessarily like even give it mention or acknowledge that it's there. You're just so used to having it there, right? So it's tough being a musician in this industry because you get very little appreciation or credit for your music, because a lot of the times, I mean, if you have a really good soundtrack and you have really good music and it complements the game, if it's meant to be like intermingled with the game, then you're more likely to notice it. But if it's just there as background stuff, I mean, even look at movies, any of that background music, you don't even notice it's there because you're just so used to hearing it. So I don't know. Because I'm already a musician, I tend to listen for that stuff because that's how I am. But yeah, I feel for musicians out there that, they just don't get enough credit or acknowledgement for there's some pretty freaking amazing music out there.
Yeah. I think it says something that when you can name like a composer at the same time, though, right? Because like Nobuo Uematsu is like a name that immediately comes to mind.
Well, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like if you'd ask me, one of the big things I'm going to list off is the Final Fantasies, especially the early Final Fantasies.
They're iconic.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like people go to symphonies of those soundtracks, which is just incredible.
Well, like look at Civ 654.
Yes. Oh yeah. No, that's a great point.
Yeah. I want to make a moment here to appreciate that musicality in the 8-bit era was especially challenging.
Definitely. Yeah.
So to point out like the original Final Fantasy and remember that they had 4 different tracks. There were 4 voices that they could give you at maximum at any given time for the audio, and very often needed to give you far less than that.
Right. But look how iconic some of those have become.
Well, a lot of that's built into our nostalgia now. Like you look at the Zelda theme, you look at the Mario theme. They're very simple songs, so they're easy to get stuck in your head. Whereas songs now, they can be as complicated or uncomplicated as you want them to be. But back then, you only had so much to work with, and they had to be made simply because there wasn't the space.
That actually reminds me of with the original Rogue Squadron on N64, like they had to come up with custom code because they're like, oh, we had to recreate John Williams' score on an N64 cartridge.
That would take up the whole cartridge and some.
Yeah. They did an amazing job. Like seriously, Rogue Squadron was a technical marvel both on N64 and GameCube, to the point that emulating any entry took years for all the tricks they used. But still, just like, I don't know how they managed to make MIDI versions of that work and actually sound good. Because just like the tech was not there at that point.
Yeah. It's kind of wild to think about.
Another you were talking about 8-bit and 16-bit. Another composer that really that comes to mind as far as like having those iconic soundtracks is Toby Fox.
Oh yeah. Megalovania.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Undertale. Actually, the Undertale soundtrack is pretty iconic now, and and considering Undertale isn't an old game, like it's really not. Like the soundtrack is hyper popular with a lot of like my kids.
Now.
Yeah. What's that?
Even the Pope knows it now. Someone played it for him.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, and yeah,
That's impressive.
like having the impact, like the way that you mentioned megalomania, right? Like the way that just makes you just drives the adrenaline and that fight with Sans. It's just it's so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that guy's a genius. Like he's a freaking 8-bit genius. Yeah.
I think a lot of the fantasy games do a great job of soundtracks. Another
Secret
one.
of Mana.
Oh, there you go. Yep, that's another one. I might have bought the End of Dragons LP. It's a 2-album set. But like a lot of games, especially if I'm streaming them, I tend to turn the music off unless I'm playing it privately at home and not streaming. But I just said forget it for this, and the composers for End of Dragons did a great job too, and it just the way the music has such a way of changing and driving the mood, the feelings around what's going on. I feel like if a composer does a proper job of it, it can just add and heighten the emotions that you feel with the visual elements of a game. And the Dragons does that really well. And
now that you mention it,
yes,
there is one more very emotionally driving song from an MMO that you might not already know, but you should probably see this live recording at some point.
Okay.
Do you know Lahi?
I don't know if I know this one.
I will show you Lahi.
Okay. Yeah, I think some of those
and nothing. I want to give you a fair warning on that video. It's very serious. I am very serious about this being the best performance of any musical piece ever. Make sure that you come in with your serious face.
Okay. Are we doing a full react to this, or is this something I just get to do later?
This might be something to do later, but for those who are curious about it, it is, the actual track is really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And fans absolutely fell in love with it while the game was active in this expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the main developers decided that they were going to perform it with some instruments that are atypical for standard instrumentation. I'll leave it at that.
Interesting. So based on the name, I have the link behind my OBS, so I don't see it, but based on the name, and you said expansion, and you mentioned MMO, Final Fantasy 14?
Da.
There we go. All right. Well, that should be good. I think a lot of MMOs do a great job with the two. I think the music around the Arthas battle is one that comes to mind too when playing World of Warcraft. That definitely had nights to remember fighting Arthas and having that music playing. So mentioning, I mentioned Guild Wars, we mentioned WoW. There's mention of Skyrim as well. I feel like those fantasy-based games really do a great job of it.
I think that's where musicians get to the most creative license too.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Because I feel like that's where they're the most fleshed out songs and the most gut punching songs. Where they can really battle scenes coming up, they can really sink their teeth into what this battle sound would be, and you get to a quieter part of the story, but it still has that light flute, and I don't know. I feel like the best music comes from these fantasy games because they have the most free license to create really cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say other games can't do that, because there's some really good indie games out there that have really good music.
Got one.
But a lot of the time, these indie games are also employing indie musicians.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And so sometimes you get some really cool stuff out of that.
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to get it's hard to get into that industry, and there's so many, like, it's so easy to find musicians nowadays. Just like there's like a whole database of musicians. They can be just like, oh, well, this one's, I'll just take this one.
Mhm.
But like, it's really hard to get into there and
break in.
break into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But once you're in, you're in.
I'm picturing this grocery store of musicians just sitting on shelves like, please pick me.
Exactly. Yeah. It's there's, because it's just so easy to make music now.
It's like going to a Persicom store.
I shouldn't say it's not. It's not that it's easy. It's just that it's more accessible, and there's a lot more bedroom musicians than there used to be.
That's fair.
Because like we have the means and the technology to. I literally, that's how I make music. Is in my studio. I do everything myself. I don't have a band. I get it done, and so that's a lot. A lot of music producers are doing it indie style at home, because who wants to pay $1,000 to rent in a studio and all that stuff?
Very true.
So.
A couple more I was going to say, because we mentioned all the fantasy stuff. Another one that immediately comes to mind is the electric guitar riff at the start of like Halo 2 and Halo the Halo
3.
OST. Yeah.
Halo 3. That's my
favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, is it Halo? Yeah. That and one like single track that sticks out a lot because of just the impact of it is if you play Control from Remedy, there is a map near the end of the game, and the song's called Take Control by the Old Gods of Asgard, and holy shit, that song is integrated so well into the gameplay. The song is the way it plays out is that in order to get through this maze that Jessie has to navigate her way through, she has to take this janitor's headphones and listen to this song. And so she puts on the headphones, right? And she's listening to this song, and the music helps navigate you through this maze. And it is just so incredible.
All that.
And it was
somewhere in the distance, Kraft is happy dancing right now.
Oh, I'm sure if Crafty heard this, she'd be doing a happy dance. But it was so good.
Actually, like the game It Takes Two, they have like this whole part where you can't get further in the game until like you perform music and stuff in there, and the music in that game is actually really amazing too. It's that co-op game. It's really good. That game was amazing, but the music was also really cool in it.
Gosh, so much good music. I love it when you can just have that. I think it's one of the things I enjoy is when you are done with a session and you can just like, one of the things that you reflect on is what you were listening to in the music itself. And
yeah, it was a good game if you got like the all around experience.
Yeah,
music
exactly.
Included. Yeah.
I suppose with that will bring us to the end of the show. But before we go, we're going to go around the horn and tell you where you can find us and what we've got coming up. And to kick that off, Musi, we're going to ask you as our guests, like, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? What do you do? Again, just
Sure. Well, you can find me at twitch.tv/Muzicchik, MUZICCHIK. I am also part of a podcast called the Something Unexpected Podcast, which you can find us anywhere where you get your podcasts. You can find us under Boom to Chick or Something Unexpected. We talk about everything and anything. As for things coming up, I'm currently wrapping up a fundraiser for WAVAW. Rape Crisis Center, and we're trying to raise $2,000 for that. Tomorrow is the last day, so I'll be doing some music tomorrow to try and seal the deal there. And then we got St. Jude coming up, so charity season is in full swing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm gonna be busy with that.
Awesome. Well, yeah, make sure to go check her out. Make sure to go check out the podcast, Something Unexpected. It's a shorter format than ours, and it's a great way to go and enjoy some great conversations. You guys have had some great conversations. I've really enjoyed listening to your podcast as well. Right. Mr. Unabridged Gamer, Elijah, what do you've got coming up? Where can we find you?
So, in a slight change up from previous announcements, you can find me primarily, obviously on Unabridged Gamer on YouTube. I have a new video that just went up earlier today, which was all about an unreleased version of Star Wars Battlefront that I managed to obtain and got working on a homebrewed Xbox. So that was neat. And lots of things changed. There were weird, Planet of the Apes style Bothans who had a passive aggression ray. So that's a thing to look forward to.
Okay.
And on top of that, you can also find me on Twitter at Unabridged Gamer, where I'll be posting links to my written stuff, which you can find on my Medium page and on Boss Level Gamer. And those are the places that you can find me right now. So there you go.
Awesome. Thank you for that. DizzahGee, what do you got coming up? Where can we find you?
You can find me on the internet. Yes. I am DizzahGee pretty much everywhere on there. If you are looking for gaming, and specifically the crazy shenanigans of the new Yakuza game, or the latest Yakuza game, it's not that new at this point, check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/DizzahGee. I've also been doing a lot with the Boston Gamers, and that's a gamer with a Y. They are starting up a Monday night variety stream, which is kind of fun. And this coming weekend, April 1st through the 3rd, we will be doing some fundraising on our Twitch account to help support the relief efforts for the Ukraine. So really cool stuff. I'm going to place a link over here as well for that, but I do hope you stop on by. It's Friday, Saturday evening, and then Sunday in the afternoon. So I'll be doing a stream for them as well. And there are some really great games, some really great people who are looking to make a really great difference. And I'm hoping you'll join in and have fun too.
Fantastic. And then, as for myself, of course, you're watching already on my Twitch channel. It's MissMischeleJean, 1L Michelle. You can find me at MissMischeleJean.tv, where I do variety gaming on Tuesday, Wednesday, Fridays. Of course, every other Friday, or we try to shoot for every other Friday, we do the Newbcast Podcast, which is this gaming news podcast where we try to stay on topic but never do.
Sometimes we go to the bathroom.
Right, or something. As far as what I got coming up is on Tuesday, I think Guild Wars has actually got a seasonal event coming up on Tuesday with the Super Adventure Times. So I might go check that out for a bit. Wednesday, of course, is Civilization with myself, Boondaba, Wizard Bailey, Engineering Tuna, and company, where those shenanigans are afoot. That's something else. And then Friday is a special Friday where I will also be starting a charity campaign. I'll be starting the St. Jude Play Live campaign for Team RP. I start on Friday afternoon, and I'll be going till about 11 Eastern, and then I'll be handing the baton off to another team member. We're doing a baton stream, so basically when one streamer is done, we go into the next streamer's stream and get them going and keep going that all the way through. And the main event for our baton relay is Muzicchik herself, who's also a member of Team RP. So that's what's coming up on here. MissMischeleJean on all the socials, 1L Michelle, and that's where you can find me. That said, for DizzahGee, the Unabridged Gamer, and for Muzicchik, my name is MissMischeleJean. This has been the Newbcast Podcast. Thank you so very much for watching. Have yourself a fantastic night.
There's no escaping the diddlies.